You're not crazy. America really is falling apart, and the people in charge? They're not fixing it. They're profiting from it. The US just hit $34.9 trillion in debt. 61% of Americans are now living paycheck to paycheck. More than 12 million renters are behind on payments. And 68% of all US counties have no local newspaper left. No news, no accountability, no warning, just collapse. Quiet, slow, and deliberate. The food system is breaking. The grid is cracking. The military can't recruit. And most Americans still believe that if they just work harder, they'll be okay. They won't. This isn't incompetence. It's a controlled demolition. And by the time most people figure it out, it's already over. Here's how it's unraveling. America's water infrastructure is quietly collapsing, and no one's talking about it. We are running out of clean water. Not in a theoretical, maybe someday way. I mean right now. The American Society of Civil Engineers gave our water infrastructure a C in its last report card. And you know what that means? Lead pipes, collapsing sewer systems, ancient treatment plants, and a distribution network that leaks 6 billion gallons of treated water every single day, gone, down the drain, like we're living in a third world country. And that's not even the worst of it. In Jackson, Mississippi, the entire water system failed. People were told to boil brown sludge to cook dinner. In Baltimore, residents routinely receive water with toxic levels of chlorine byproducts. And let's talk PFAS, forever chemicals, those little cancer-causing devils now found in 45% of all U.S. tap water according to the U.S. Geological Survey. And don't kid yourself, rural towns. They're not getting fixed, they're getting abandoned. Cities? They're patching 100-year-old pipes with duct tape and prayers. And guess who's stuck footing the bill for a complete nationwide overhaul that experts say will cost $1.1 trillion over the next 25 years? You. Me. The average working American who's already paying $100 a month for water you can't even drink safely. But the billionaires, they're building private wells on mountaintops. The hedge funds, they're buying up public water utilities and jacking rates 300% like it's a game. We are watching the basic building block of civilization, water, get sold off, poisoned, and ignored. While you scroll Instagram, America's pipes are rusting beneath your feet, one burst away from a crisis. And when the system fails, FEMA won't save you. There's no bottled water convoy for millions of Americans. You'll be boiling pond water and wondering how the richest country on earth forgot to fix its plumbing. Let's talk about the kids, not the theoretical next generation. I'm talking about your kids, my nieces, your neighbor's 22-year-old fresh out of college. They are drowning before they even touch the water. Student loan debt in the U.S. is back over $1.77 trillion. A number so big it sounds fake until you meet someone paying $900 a month for a degree they can't use. But here's the part no one talks about. It's not just loans. Gen Z is entering adulthood in the most financially hostile environment since the Great Depression. Average rent for a one-bedroom is over $1,700 a month nationwide. The average credit score for 18-24-year-olds is below 650. And that's not a character flaw, that's survival. Credit cards are their emergency fund. Buy now, pay later? It's not a trend. It's a necessity. 1 in 5 Gen Z adults literally uses Afterpay or Klarna to buy groceries. Not Jordans, not iPhones, groceries. And still, these kids are being told to just budget better. How? When 50% of entry-level jobs now require 3 years of experience and pay less than $40K? How, when eggs cost more than rent did 15 years ago? Let me hit you with this. More than 60% of Gen Z workers say they live paycheck to paycheck. And the number of 25-year-olds living with their parents is at the highest it's been in modern American history. It's not because they're lazy, it's because the system rigged the price of independence out of reach. They are the first generation that will likely be poorer than their parents. And if you think they're just going to sit quietly, grind their life away for a house they'll never own and healthcare they can't use, think again. The resentment is brewing. The economy that created six-figure influencers and billion-dollar tech bros has left behind 70 million kids who can't buy a used Honda without a 9% interest rate. We didn't just break the American dream, we turned it into a pay-per-view fantasy only the wealthy can access. Here's something you're not supposed to say out loud. Retirement is a myth for most working Americans now. I'm serious. The old formula? Work hard, pay into Social Security, maybe squirrel away a little 401k, and ride off into a golden sunset by age 65. That dream is dead. The median retirement savings for Americans age 55-64 is just $134,000. That's it. That's what stands between you and working at Walmart until your knees give out. And Social Security? You've been paying into it your entire life, but the latest projections say the trust fund could be insolvent by 2033. If Congress doesn't act, which, let's be real, they won't, benefits will be slashed by up to 25%. But that's only half the story. You've got Wall Street turning retirement accounts into roulette wheels. The average 401k lost 23% of its value in 2022, and the rebound has been pathetic unless you're sitting on a tech stock windfall. And now, with inflation, that $134,000 in savings gets shredded by grocery bills, medical premiums, and property taxes. Retirees are going back to work at record levels. Over 20% of Americans over 65 are now employed. Not because they want to, but because they have to. They're delivering Amazon packages. They're manning cash registers. And that's if they're healthy. Because let's not forget, the average cost of healthcare in retirement is $315,000 per couple, according to Fidelity. And Medicare doesn't even cover long-term care. So what happens if you get sick? You lose your house. You bankrupt your family. Or you just die earlier, because that's where this is heading. Retirement is being stolen in real time, and nobody at the top cares. The CEOs with their golden parachutes, they'll never feel this. But the rest of us are aging into an economy that doesn't want us and can't afford us. You're not retiring. You're just shifting from one form of wage slavery into another, slower one, until the system extracts your last breath. Everyone talks about the economy, the border, the debt, but almost no one is paying attention to what's happening inside the one institution that's supposed to protect all of it, the United States military. And let me tell you, it's falling apart faster than anyone wants to admit. In 2023, the Army, Navy, and Air Force all missed their recruitment goals. Not by a little, by a lot. The Army came up short by 10,000 troops. The Navy? Short by nearly 20% of its goal. This isn't just a stat. This is a national security red flag the size of Texas. You want to know why? Because it's not that Americans don't want to serve, it's that they literally can't. Over 75% of young adults aged 17 to 24 are now ineligible to serve due to obesity, mental health issues, drug use, or criminal records. 75%. That's 3 out of 4 kids who can't even qualify to defend the country, and it's only getting worse. But even those who do join, they're not sticking around. Retention is plummeting. Why? Because military housing is full of mold, because families are waiting 6 months for base childcare, because the pay hasn't kept up with inflation and junior enlisted troops are literally lining up at food banks. I'm not exaggerating. A 2024 RAND report found that nearly 1 in 4 active-duty families experience food insecurity. You think that sounds like a stable fighting force? The Navy is cannibalizing ships just to keep the old ones running. The Air Force is relying on 40-year-old bombers and broken training simulators. And while China builds 10 new warships a year, we're still trying to find enough mechanics to service the ones we already have. We're not ready for a war. Not with China, not with anyone. Our military-industrial complex is great at making money. It's not great at taking care of the humans who wear the uniform. The system's stretched, tired, aging, and now starving for bodies. And nobody in DC seems to care. But when the next real crisis hits, we'll realize we hollowed out the very force we thought would save us. Let's not sugarcoat it. Our electric grid is a ticking time bomb. And I don't mean that metaphorically. I mean literally. Experts at the North American Electric Reliability Corporation warned, again in their 2024 summer assessment, that 2/3 of the U.S. population is at risk of blackouts during extreme weather. 2/3. That's over 220 million people who could lose power when they need it most. Think Texas in 2021. Now imagine it happening coast to coast. Why? Because the grid we depend on every second of every day was built for a country that doesn't exist anymore. Some of the transformers in use right now, they're from the 1960s. 500,000 miles of high-voltage transmission lines snake across America, and most of them are operating at or near capacity, with no backup plan if something goes down. And something will go down. Between 2000 and 2022, the number of major power outages caused by extreme weather more than doubled. Floods, wildfires, hurricanes, pick your poison. The grid isn't hardened for any of it. But here's the kicker. Replacing a single high-voltage transformer can take over 2 years. You know why? Because they're custom-built, and we don't even make most of them in the US anymore. We rely on imports from South Korea and Germany, so if a cyber attack or solar storm fries a few key nodes, we're not talking about inconvenience. We're talking about millions without power for weeks or months. No refrigeration, no heat, no AC, no water pressure, no internet, and no one coming to fix it fast. And yet, utility companies keep dragging their feet. They'd rather spend money on shareholder dividends than modernization. Meanwhile, the shift to electric vehicles and data centers is surging demand by 20% over the next decade. We're adding pressure to a system that can't even handle what it's already carrying. This isn't about going green or staying red. This is about survival. Our grid is brittle, it's underfunded, and it's running out of luck. The question isn't if it will collapse. The question is when. America's local news is dying, and when it's gone, the lights go out on your community. You think you're informed because you follow Twitter threads or cable news? Let me break it to you. CNN isn't covering the sewage leak in your town's river. Fox News won't tell you that your school board just approved a budget cut that kills music programs, but your local newspaper used to. Not anymore. Over 2,500 newspapers have shut down across the U.S. since 2005. That's a staggering 2 per week. Entire counties, over half of all U.S. counties now, have no daily newspaper. They're called news deserts, and they're spreading like wildfire. And what replaces them? Not independent watchdogs, not trusted journalists, but hollow, for-profit ghost papers owned by hedge funds. These outfits lay off reporters, syndicate old wire stories, and sell more ads than facts. And into that vacuum flows disinformation. Facebook moms groups become the source of local election. News. TikTokers peddling conspiracy theories fill the void. Misinformation thrives when no one's watching. Studies show voter turnout drops by up to 15% in areas that lose local journalism. Corruption explodes. City budgets go unchecked. Taxpayer waste goes unreported. And crime coverage? It gets politicized because no one's on the ground actually talking to real people. You want to know why small-town corruption is surging? Why rural hospital closures go unnoticed until ambulances reroute 70 miles out? It's because the watchdogs are gone, dead, fired, laid off in the last round of budget adjustments. And with AI now scraping and regurgitating news content wholesale, even the profitable papers are racing to cut human staff. You are watching a foundational pillar of democracy crumble, and no one in Washington even mentions it. When the Fourth Estate dies, the First Amendment is just words on parchment. You'll wake up one day and realize you don't know who's running your city, or what they're doing with your money, and by then, it's already too late. America's food system is one catastrophe away from collapse. You've seen the prices. Eggs at $6 a dozen, milk pushing $5, beef so high it's basically a luxury meat now. But what you haven't been told is that these aren't just inflation blips. This is the early phase of something much more dangerous. A full-blown agricultural unraveling. Let's start with farms. Over the last 40 years, the U.S. has lost more than 50% of its small farms. Corporate megafarms are swallowing everything, and they don't grow food. They grow commodities: corn, soy, wheat, for export, fuel, and processed junk. Meanwhile, the average age of a U.S. farmer is now 59 years old. That's the oldest it's ever been. Young farmers can't afford land, can't get loans, and can't survive the razor-thin margins unless they inherit thousands of acres. So they don't even try. But wait, it gets worse. The Ogallala Aquifer, which irrigates 30% of American crops, is drying up. Entire regions of Kansas and Nebraska are facing permanent desertification in the next 2 decades. And the USDA? They're doing nothing to stop it. Add in wildfires torching California orchards, floods wiping out Midwest cornfields, and global grain markets rocked by war in Ukraine and droughts in India. And what do you get? Volatility, which is code for shortages are coming. And the food you can buy? It's garbage. Over 60% of the average American diet is now ultra-processed. You're eating seed oils, synthetic preservatives, emulsifiers, and sugar by any other name 3 meals a day. And when you do try to eat clean, you pay double, sometimes triple. Because the system isn't built for health. It's built for volume, shelf life, and profit. The CEOs of Tyson, Cargill, and Nestlé are getting rich while you choose between rent and groceries. We're running out of farmland. We're running out of water. We're running out of actual nutrition. And all it takes is one more black swan event, a cyber attack, a mega drought, a new war, and the shelves go empty. Not for a day, not for a week, for good. America's mental health crisis has quietly turned into a national emergency. We need to talk because we are witnessing the slow psychological collapse of an entire nation, and the worst part? We're pretending it's normal. I'm not talking about just feeling stressed. I'm talking about a full-blown mental health emergency sweeping across every age, every class, every state, and there is no cavalry coming. The CDC now reports that 1 in 3 American adults show signs of anxiety or depression. That's over 100 million people walking around in a daze, pretending they're fine. Suicide rates? The highest they've been since the Great Depression. And among kids aged 10-24, suicide is now the second leading cause of death. Read that again. You think it's TikTok or iPhones or kids being soft? No. It's the system, grinding them down. It's parents working 2 jobs and still losing the house. It's teenagers watching their future evaporate before they even graduate. It's college students saddled with 6-figure debt, working 50 hours a week and still skipping meals. It's veterans being handed a flag and a prescription instead of trauma counseling. It's working moms who can't afford therapy. And it's men, tens of millions of men, trapped in silent despair, because this culture teaches them that asking for help is weakness. And what's the government doing? Gutting programs? Cutting budgets? The number of psychiatric beds in the U.S. has dropped 94% since 1955. 94. Half of counties in America have 0 licensed psychiatrists. You know what fills the gap? TikTok therapists and pharma ads selling you a better you in pill form. The average wait to see a licensed mental health professional? 48 days, assuming you can even afford the $150 session fee. Insurance coverage? Laughable. Most plans only cover a fraction, and even then, good luck finding someone in network. We are sick, collectively, and no one's treating the root. This is what a culture-wide mental health breakdown looks like. It's not loud, it's not sudden, it's quiet, it's subtle, and it's absolutely everywhere. And if we don't face it soon, it will take the whole country down from the inside out. The justice system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed. You want to know why nothing ever feels fair anymore? Why criminals with money skate by, while poor folks go to jail for life over petty crimes? It's because America doesn't have a broken justice system. We have a fully functional, profit-driven punishment machine, and it's devouring this country from the inside out. Over 2.1 million people are incarcerated in the U.S. right now. That's more than any other country on Earth. China has 4 times our population, and we still lock up more people. But here's what makes it worse. Over 60% of those incarcerated haven't even been convicted yet. They're just waiting for trial. Why? Because they couldn't afford bail. Because they were poor. That's it. You want to talk about justice? In this country, guilt or innocence often comes down to one thing. How much is in your bank account? And if you think this only affects people who did something wrong, wake up. Civil asset forfeiture. A practice where cops take your property without charging you with a crime. Rakes in over $3 billion a year. That's $3 billion stolen from Americans. No trial, no charges, just gone. And who profits? Private prisons. Court systems that charge you $100 just to file a public defender request. Towns where traffic tickets fund half the city budget. Police unions that block reform at every level. And judges, like the one in Pennsylvania, who literally sentenced thousands of children to private juvie centers in exchange for kickbacks. That happened. And it barely made national news. Meanwhile, trust in the system is collapsing. Only 20% of Americans believe the criminal justice system is fair, and yet every year we funnel more money into it. Militarized police, more surveillance, bigger jails, fewer public defenders, less oversight. The result? A country that criminalizes poverty, commodifies punishment, and calls it law and order. This isn't justice. It's a business model. And until people realize the courtrooms, the cops, the prisons, they're all cogs in a machine designed to extract labor, obedience, and money from the lower classes. We will stay stuck in a cycle where freedom isn't a right. It's a luxury you have to buy. America's democracy is already being replaced, and most people don't even realize it. Here it is. The truth, no one wants to say out loud. Not the media, not the politicians, not even your smartest friend on Twitter, because it's too big, too uncomfortable, and too real. We're not headed toward authoritarianism. We're already there. You think this is still a democracy because you get to vote every few years? Because you have a flag in your front yard? Wake up. What we have now is a hollowed-out, corporatized, tech-surveilled simulation of freedom. It looks like democracy. It talks like democracy. But the engine underneath is rusted out and running on fumes. You want proof? Let's start with the fact that 94% of all congressional races are won by the candidate with the most money. That's not a coincidence. That's a rigged auction. And who supplies that money? Corporations, lobbyists, and billionaires. The same people who benefit from every policy passed, every regulation gutted, every tax loophole preserved. Your vote might count, but your influence? It's zero unless you write six-figure checks. And when politicians don't follow the donor's playbook, they get primaried, silenced, smeared, bought out. Meanwhile, your rights? Being eaten away in the background. Facial recognition is scanning you at airports, malls, even protests. The government buys your private data from third-party brokers with zero warrants needed. That's legal. States are purging voter rolls. Gerrymandering has turned fair representation into a mathematical joke. And now, AI is being used to generate deep-fake political ads that are literally designed to manipulate your emotions and override your free will. This isn't a future threat, it's happening right now. And the courts? They're not protecting you. The Supreme Court has rolled back environmental protections, civil rights, and even voting safeguards, all while hiding behind originalism like it's a sacred doctrine instead of a cover for regression. So let's be honest, this isn't a democracy. This is corporate feudalism wrapped in patriotic branding. Your freedoms are being leased back to you at a premium. Your government is not broken. It's been captured and reprogrammed to serve the few, while keeping the rest of us distracted with culture wars, fake outrage, and empty promises. You didn't lose your country all at once. You lost it one silence at a time.